Assalamu alaikum, dear brothers and sisters. In today's society, many people view romance as the ultimate goal. Social media, movies, and music often convey the message that we're incomplete without a romantic partner. However, as Muslims, we are faced with a different reality. With the rise of direct messages, online flirting, and the pressure to find love, we may start questioning whether this is truly what we need. The reality is, my dear brothers and sisters, that we do not need romantic relationships to complete us. Islam provides a different perspective, one centered on faith, self-discipline, and the sanctity of marriage. So, why does romance seem so appealing in today's world? What are the reasons why Muslims should reconsider their views on relationships outside of marriage? Let's explore the reality of relationships in Islam and understand the true purpose of love and companionship in our faith. 1. The pressure of social media and DMs, a modern-day illusion. In today's digital age, social media plays a significant role in shaping our perceptions of love and relationships. Whether it's through Instagram, Facebook, or dating apps, it's easy to be swept up by the idea that happiness and fulfillment can be found through romantic connections, often with strangers or acquaintances who message us directly. But what does Islam teach us about these modern temptations? The Quran cautions us about engaging in relationships outside of marriage, particularly when they are driven by temporary desires or self-interest. Allah warns us in the Quran, "And do not approach unlawful sexual intercourse. Indeed, it is ever an immorality and is evil as a way." Surah Al-Isra, 17:32. Yet, in today's society, it's common to see people engaging in conversations or even relationships that cross boundaries, all under the guise of harmless flirting or getting to know someone. But the reality is that these interactions are a breeding ground for temptation, misguidance, and distractions from Allah's path. We often overlook the emotional and spiritual consequences of these actions. How many times have we heard people express how empty they feel after such interactions? Relationships based solely on lust or superficial attraction don't bring true happiness. They leave you feeling empty, disconnected from Allah, and distracted from your true purpose. This pressure to engage with others online, through direct messages or casual conversations, takes away from the peaceful, meaningful relationships we should be striving for. In Islam, relationships should be rooted in faith, commitment, and the sanctity of marriage. The dangers of seeking love in the wrong places. In today's society, the pressure to find love can often drive people away from the principles of Islam. Many young Muslims, feeling the societal expectation to be in a relationship, end up looking for companionship in places where genuine love and respect are not assured. Relationships outside of marriage, particularly those based on short-lived attraction or passing emotions, bring only spiritual damage and emotional pain. Islam teaches us that true love should be rooted in faith, not in the fleeting pleasures of this world. The Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, emphasized the importance of modesty and guarding our chastity, which is a core principle of Islam. He, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, "Whoever guarantees me what is between his jaws and between his legs, I will guarantee him paradise." This hadith reminds us that our speech and our desires must be protected in order to maintain our dignity and our faith. Yet, today's society encourages people to seek relationships based on desires and emotions rather than respect, commitment, and shared faith. This often leads people into the trap of haram relationships, causing emotional distress and distance from Allah. The reality is that when you seek love in the wrong places, you invite unnecessary drama, heartbreak, and confusion into your life. Islam teaches us that a true and meaningful relationship can only be built on the foundation of marriage, where love, respect, and faith are prioritized. 3. the disconnect between identity and actions. Are we truly living by the principles we claim to follow? As Muslims, we often proudly identify ourselves as such. But when we reflect on our actions, we may find a gap between our identity and the way we live. This is particularly noticeable in the area of relationships. Many of us may wear the label of being Muslim, but do our actions align with the teachings of Islam, especially when it comes to relationships and romance? It's easy to be influenced by society's pressures and forget the foundational values of Islam that should guide us. The impact of social media, entertainment, and peer pressure can easily mislead us into thinking that pursuing romantic relationships outside of marriage is acceptable, even when we know it contradicts Islamic teachings. In reality, many young Muslims live in ways that conflict with the faith they profess. They may spend excessive time on dating apps, engage in casual conversations with people they aren't married to, or even participate in relationships that violate the principles of Islam. These behaviors don't just affect us spiritually, they can also harm our emotional and mental well-being. Allah has given us clear guidance on how to maintain purity in our relationships, and when we deviate from these principles, we create internal conflict. The Quran reminds us of our higher purpose and the importance of remaining true to our faith, saying, "O you who have believed, do not follow the footsteps of Shaitan. Whoever follows the footsteps of Shaitan, indeed, he enjoys immorality and wrong." Quran 24:21. The reality is, many of us are just Muslims by name, but our actions don't reflect the true spirit of Islam. It's important for us to pause and ask ourselves, are we truly practicing what we preach, especially in how we approach relationships? If we want to live authentically as Muslims, we need to realign ourselves with the teachings of Islam, even in our romantic pursuits. Number 4. When your patience is your greatest test. In today's world, where instant gratification and quick fixes are the norm, patience has become one of the hardest virtues to maintain, especially when it comes to relationships. Many young Muslims, overwhelmed by the pressure to find someone or settle down, struggle with the idea of waiting. We live in an era where everything is available at the tap of a button, including potential relationships. But the reality is, true love, the kind that Islam teaches us to seek, isn't about rushing or settling for anything less than what Allah has intended for us. Patience is not just a passive act of waiting. It is an active choice to trust in Allah's plan and timing. It's about resisting the temptation to rush into a relationship simply because others are doing it, or because society tells us it's time. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ reminded us that good things come to those who wait with patience and faith. He said, Allah said, "Whoever is patient, Allah will give him patience, and no one is given a better or more abundant gift than patience." Many of us may feel the pressure to be in a relationship, to fulfill societal expectations, or even to feel loved. But remember, Islam encourages us to have patience, knowing that everything happens in Allah's perfect timing. If you are struggling with the wait, understand that this patience is a test that, when passed, leads to reward, peace, and contentment in both this world and the hereafter. In today's society, we often forget that marriage and love are not to be rushed or forced. True companionship is built on the foundation of faith, and this takes time, effort, and patience. Number 5. The true purpose of relationships: strengthening your faith. When we think about relationships, especially in the context of Islam, we should remind ourselves that the ultimate purpose is not just companionship or fulfilling desires. It's about building a bond that strengthens our faith and brings us closer to Allah. Too often, we get distracted by the idea of finding the one or rushing into romantic connections. But we forget that marriage, as prescribed in Islam, is meant to be a spiritual partnership, one where both spouses help each other grow in faith, patience, and devotion to Allah. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "The best of you are those who are best to their wives." In Islam, marriage is a sacred contract, a partnership where both individuals help each other stay on the right path, support each other in worship, and encourage each other to grow spiritually. It's not about seeking someone to fulfill a romantic fantasy, but rather someone who will be your partner in faith, someone who helps you get closer to Allah, and who you can turn to in moments of weakness or trial. Today, society encourages us to focus on the perfect relationship, the one that is filled with excitement, passion, and constant validation. But Islam reminds us that true love and fulfillment come when our relationship is grounded in something greater, our connection to Allah. Marriage is not just a means to fill a void, but a means to serve Allah together, to grow together in faith, and to work towards the hereafter as a team. If we shift our perspective and approach relationships with the understanding that they are a tool to strengthen our faith and please Allah, we will begin to see relationships in their true light, one built on mutual respect, trust, and devotion. My dear brothers and sisters, throughout this journey, we've explored the realities of romantic relationships in today's society and the pressures many Muslims face. We've learned that while society may tell us to rush, to fill our lives with distractions, or to seek temporary fulfillment, Islam offers us a different path, one that emphasizes patience, purity, and the sanctity of marriage. Allah has created us in pairs, as He says in the Quran, "And we created you in pairs." This beautiful verse reminds us that companionship and love are part of our natural design, but they must be sought in the right way. Marriage, as a bond grounded in faith, is the way Allah intended for us to find true fulfillment and peace. The pressure to seek relationships outside of marriage or to focus on temporary desires takes us away from the deeper purpose that Allah has laid out for us. As we navigate the pressures and distractions of today's world, it's crucial to remember that the ultimate aim is not just to find love, but to seek a love that brings us closer to Allah. True love, as Islam teaches, is founded on faith, trust, and mutual respect. It is a bond that nurtures our spiritual growth, strengthens our connection with Allah, and prepares us for the hereafter. If you're feeling the weight of societal pressures or struggling to find someone, trust in Allah's plan. His timing is always perfect, and He knows what's best for you. Be patient, maintain your faith, and remember that true love, one that aligns with Allah's will come when the time is right. Let's recite this dua together. Ya Allah, guide us to the right path, and bless us with a marriage that strengthens our faith and brings us closer to you. If this message touched your heart, feel free to comment, Ya Allah, guide me to the right path below. Your words might inspire someone else to reflect on their journey. And remember, liking and subscribing helps us share these reminders, bringing us closer to Allah. May Allah bless each and every one of you with patience, peace, and a righteous companionship, inshaAllah. Ameen. Surah Al-Isra, 1732. Surah An-Nur, 24:21. Surah An-Naba, 78:8.